Mediterranean Sea Program, we have the MedProgramme. MedProgramme is one of the GEF main projects that covers different areas, from chemicals, from planification, from strategies, different topics across the sea. And Omar Sharif, who is the representative from the Environment Ministry here in Libya, asked us in October to deliver one activity in Libya that was not planned at the beginning when this project was conceived in 2020. So we agree with Omar to deliver one workshop that has to be in person in Tripoli during this week. So the workshop was according to the POP's contaminated sites. We have with us a great expert on this topic that has worked on a guideline that he will explain after everything, Mr. Boudewijn Fogg. So you have everything on the conceptual note. You will have on the chat, we will copy again. I will not explain too much, but the topic of this MedProgramme is that we have to deliver what the countries ask to us. So Omar considered this was a great topic for Libya after, for example, the civil war and other problems that you have of contamination. We consider this is a very important topic. This is the last activity that MedWave will do according to the MedProgramme. So we are giving the last. It was not possible to deliver in person at the last minute. We will do this 3 days webinar. For this, I want to say only 2 things before giving the floor to Omar. First one, you will have a certificate of participation if you attend the 3 days. So after the 3 days, if you have attended this webinar, you will have a certification from the UNEP-MAP, MedWave, and the Environment Ministry in Libya. After, Mr. Boudewijn Fogg wants that this workshop has to be good interaction between the participants and him. So anytime that you consider that you want to ask something, please, on the bottom of the screen, you have, for example, reactions. If you click on the reactions, you will see raise hand. When you raise hand, I will take a look and I will give you the floor to ask him any question you consider. At the same time, if you go to interpretation, that it's next to reactions, you will see 2 channels, English and Arabic. So you can choose which one you prefer. Mr. Boudewijn Fogg will be speaking in English, but you have the dual channel to listen the live translation to Arabic. After these 3 days, if for any reason you are not able to attend all these 3 days, all these videos will be available on our website, on the MedWave YouTube channel. So this will be shared with you, and it will be all the videos in English and all the videos in Arabic. So no problem about this. Also, the presentations that Mr. Boudewijn Fogg will present to you will be shared with you next week, more or less, I assume. So don't worry about this. And anytime that you consider that you have to ask something, please feel free, always going to reactions and raise hand. So the last words that I want to give before giving the floor to Omar Sharif, this is a very important and productive workshop, webinar in this case. I am proud that we are having this. And to show that this is important, I will only mention something. Today it's a bank holiday in Catalonia, in Barcelona. So anyone is working. And I am working, and these hours will not be paid to me. So I consider that the workshop is important, and I am here all the morning. So please take this into account, and I am sure you will also take the pleasure to listen to Mr. Fogg about this great topic. So now, Omar Sharif, please, your turn, if you flow.
Thank you, Jordi. Thank you very much. And thank you for your time, to participate in your holiday. Thank you very much. I will speak in Arabic. So أول حاجة السلام عليكم، صباح الخير جميعا. ونشكركم على الحضور والتسجيل في هذه ورشة العمل المهمة زي ما حكى جوردي. أنا عمر الشريف، أستاذ مساعد كلية البيئة والموارد الطبيعية بجامعة وادي الشاطئ، ونقطة اتصال لمرفق البيئة العالمي الجيف اللي هو Global Environment Facility تابع لوزارة البيئة. تعريف بس بالجيف، هو صندوق خلينا نقوله مالي خاص بالمشاريع البيئية اللي تدعم كل المشاريع البيئية حول العالم. فيه أكثر من 186 دولة حول العالم كلها مشاركة في منها دول مانحة هي اللي تدفع القيم هذه في الصندوق، وفي دول مستفيدة أو هي اللي تستقبل الأموال هذه لغرض دعم مشاريع بيئية. فهو خاص بالمشاريع البيئية فقط. فهي شنو دير؟ تخصص في قيمة مالية بناء على عدة معايير لكل دولة، فكل دولة عندها قيمة مالية معينة، ولمدة 4 سنوات تعطيك فرصة كدولة أنك أنت تحدد شنو هي المشاريع اللي محتاج لها وتقدمها لمرفق البيئة العالمي حتى يعتمدها ويمكن تطبيقها على أرض الواقع، طبعا عن طريق منظمات دولية معتمدة عند مرفق البيئة العالمي. ما تقدرش أنت كوزارة أو كجهة مثلا مؤسسة مجتمع مدني ولا جهة أخرى حكومية أنها أو جهة خاصة تقدر تقدم مقترحات. ضروري تكون عن طريق منظمات دولية. أو مرفق البيئة العالمي بدأ في 1992 في قمة الأرض في ريو، بدأ هو من جيف واحد. احنا واصلين الآن في الدورة الثامنة اللي هي تنتهي مفروض في مارس 2026، وحيبدأ في جون 2026 حتبدأ الدورة التاسعة لمرفق البيئة العالمي، يعني حتخصص أموال أخرى ممكن تستفيد منها الدولة الليبية. فمن المشاريع هذه طبعا في عدة مشاريع بس ما عندناش وقت، فبعض المشاريع اللي مستفيدة منها ليبيا حاليا ونشتغلوا عليها أو هي في نهاية زي ما حكينا احنا في نهاية الدورة الثامنة. ففي مشروع توسعة المحميات البحرية، هذا تنفيذ منظمة اليونب وبالتعاون مع وزارة البيئة. هو مشروع خاص بليبيا فقط، نشتغل على توسعة المحميات البحرية. تم تحديد 3 محميات بحرية وتم الشغل عليه. عندنا برضو مشروع إدارة الأحواض المائية الجوفية الساحلية، وخصصنا حوض سهل جفارة كبريورتي أو كأولوية للدولة، وتم دراستها عندنا طبعا عن طريق منظمة اليونسكو، وقاعدين في المراحل الأخيرة في الأنشطة اللي تدعم المشروع هذا. والمشروع هذا اللي تو قاعدين نشتغل عليه احنا كله هو طبعا يسمى تحت شايلد بروجكت. فهو هذا تقليل الملوثات الكيميائية في منطقة حوض البحر الأبيض المتوسط في الهوت سبوتس الموجودة هنا. زي ما حكى جوردي إن كانت الفكرة نجيبوا يكون في خبير ويكون جوردي وكل الميد ويفز أو منظمة الميد ويفز إنهم يجوا لي ليبيا. وكانت الورك شوب تكون بكره يوم 25، بس الوضع الامني اللي صار قبل العيد وكذا ما قدرناش كيف نواصلوا في ترتيب الورك شوب. فقلنا افضل من نضيع الفرصه هذه ان نقدروا نستغلوها حتى اونلاين، فتكون هي ككوف لان ندخلوا او ليبيا تركز على المشاريع البيئيه اللي خاصه باداره ومعالجه المخلفات الكيميائيه. عندنا مشاكل ملوثات كيميائيه بكثرة في ليبيا، تحتاج إلى ترتيب، تحتاج إلى إدارة، تحتاج إلى معالجة، وأحيانا إلى حتى طرق التخلص النهائي منها، اللي هي أحيانا تحتاج أنك تخلص منها خارج الدولة الليبية، والدولة الليبية ما عندهاش القدرة. يعني صادفتنا أكثر من مشكلة في وزارة البيئة أن ما عندهمش القدرات أنك تقدر تخلص من بعض المواد الكيميائية خصوصا الخطرة. تعرفوا أن في اتفاقيات ودولية تحدد البرامج هذه. فالوركشوب اليوم مهمة جدا. هي معنا الخبير الدولي مستر فوكي، وهو تخصص يعني عنده خبرة طويلة في المجال. هو كنا زي ما حكينا نتمنى انه يكون موجود على ارض الواقع، وكنا حيكون فيه كان في سايت فيزيتس، يعني حيكون في نطلع الحقل ويكون في كيف تجمع العينات وكيف طرق تحليلها والبرامج هذه كلها. ما نطولش عليكم، زي ما قلت لكم احنا باذن الله اي حد يعني مهتم بالمجال هذا او في اداره المخلفات مثلا الكيميائيه، حصرها، تطبيقها كذا، معالجتها، طرق معالجتها، حتى في المستقبل اذا كنت انت جهه حكوميه او مؤسسة مجتمع مدني أو حتى قطاع خاص وعندك فكرة مشروع، يعني مشروع يكون كبير كويس بخصوص هواه، ونقدر نقدمه لمرفق البيئة العالمي في الجيف 9 أو في الدورة التاسعة لمرفق البيئة العالمي. فتفضل، الحين موجودين في وزارة البيئة، تقدر تقدم المقترح متاعك أو تبعت لي أو تتواصل مع مكتب التعاون الدولي في وزارة البيئة، ونبدأ نشتغلوا على مشروع أكبر تستفيد منه الدولة الليبية. فأشكركم مرة ثانية وعلى التسجيل وانضمامكم لهذه الورشة المهمة. أترك المجال الخبير الدولي مستر فوكي معكم للورشة. Mr. Foki, floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. I hope the translation is clear for you. Thank you very much for the invitation and the trust that I will present the basics of the contaminated site management. And I think that I fully agree with Jordi that it's an important issue, especially in countries where sites are being developed in the near future, and sites that were used by industry or by companies that may have affected the soil. But let me just start the presentations. I will share my screen so that it will take a short moment. You should have now my screen. This presentation is about the sustainable management of contaminated sites, and especially focused on POPs contaminated sites. The content is, after this introduction, I would like to share with you the objectives of the workshop program, which is a 3-day program, and then the rules of the workshop. And I want to share with you basic information on the best available technique and the best environmental practice. The abbreviation is BET and BEP. And this is the guidance of the contaminated site management of the Stockholm Convention, and it is recently adopted. The draft is adopted in the last COP, which was February 2025. And then I will go in this first presentation also on the phased approach, stepwise approach of contaminated site management. But first, I see that there are around, let me see, there are around 19 people, 19, and it's for me difficult to know what the, let's say, knowledge is in the group listening. So if you could explain me in a few words your background, the task and roles in your contaminated site management, and what you want to gain from this workshop. This gives me a bit of idea, and I can direct or focus on certain subjects that you are interested in. So please, can I invite the first one to introduce himself and just shortly explain to me what the roles and tasks, his or her role and task in the contaminated site management is, and what he wants to gain from this workshop. I think if you talk, you should unmute. Jordi, maybe you can manage this process.
Yes, for sure. If you want, we will do via alphabetical order. So I think the first one is Abdelaman Houaish.
Yeah.
Ibrahim Huashis.
Yes, good morning. I am Abdurrahim Houish from Tripoli, Libya.
What is your role, your future role in contaminated site management?
Yes, I am staff member at the Tripoli University. I'm also working on the management plan for the Jafara coastal aquifer here in Libya with the MedProgramme project.
Okay, so you are involved in contaminated site management, especially in the coastal region.
Yes,
and
coastal
focus,
aquifers.
yeah, focus on the coastal aquifers. Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Abubakar Sharif.
Yes, good morning. I am Abu Bakr Sharif. I am associate professor working at Libyan Advanced Center for Chemical Analysis in Tripoli, Libya. I am a researcher, chemical researcher. I'm interested to heavy metals, pollution in water, soil, air. It's great to be here today to contribute in this meeting or workshop.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. May I just have a remark? The workshop is focused on POPs and presents the approach of contaminated site management of POPs, contaminated sites. But don't worry, this approach is of course developed based on the contaminated site management of all contaminants of concern, including heavy metals and organic carbons and so on and so on. So the system which I present can be used for any contaminated sites. The examples I mainly present are related to POPs contaminated sites. But once again, this approach, this phased approach, can be used for the management of any contaminated sites. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fogg. Now, the next one, it was Ambark Mustafa.
السلام عليكم. مبارك ممكن عضو هيئة التدريس في جامعة وادي الشاطئ، محاضر في قسم علوم البيئة وطالب دكتوراه حاليا عام على دراسة اللي هي الضغوط البيئية اللي تؤثر على بحيرة قبرعون، ومهتم جدا بموضوع المخلفات الكيميائية وتغير المناخ.
Thank you very much.
So now
So
the
next
floor
one.
is for Gloria Mustaq.
Good morning for everyone. I'm Dahia Miftah. That's a real name, not as presented on the listed. I am a PhD at Tripoli University, and I am geological engineering. I am interested in environment pollution about the water or waste, about surface or subsurface. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
We go for Hassan Mohammed Ali.
الصباح الخير. حسن محمد علي عبد السلام المرتضى، ماجستير علوم بيئية وعضو هيئة تدريس متعاون في كلية التقنية وباري. طبعا أنا مهتم بالقضايا البيئية.
Okay, thank you very much.
The turn is for Mahmoud Amer Altarwini. Sorry if I don't pronounce correctly. I feel sorry. Good morning, Mahmoud.
Good morning, everyone. So, first of all, thank you for giving this opportunity for inviting us for this workshop. My name is Mahmoud Al-Tahuni. Actually, I am staff member at the Faculty of Engineering, Geological Engineering Department, Tripoli University. My background is related to the geological, geotechnical, geoenvironmental field. And Also, I'm holding now a position for coordinator of laboratory facilities at the Faculty of Engineering. So we are dealing with the contamination, chemicals. My view from your task like contaminated site management. Actually, I want to see what is the latest technology for evaluating and classifying and how we can deal with the contamination and what class we are like classifying for. My goal from attending this workshop, like especially for contaminated site management, I want to see the latest technology for classifying the site contaminated from different, like for example, from chemicals or, and so on, and how we can deal with like safely and in effective way for this contamination.
Yes, I think that I could follow. It was a bit vague, but you are responsible for the chemical laboratory, including samples from the environment, and you want to gain more knowledge on the way of soil contamination assessment. I must say that I will not go into the laboratory analysis and the instruments. I mean, that's not my field. I think you know much more about all these things. I will touch of course, the sampling equipment, and then cold chain transport to the labs and so on. And I will focus also on cross-contamination, including cross-contamination in the laboratory. But I'm glad to hear that Libya has experts on chemical analysis. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mahmoud. Now it's Mohammed.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Muhammad Abdel Sayed Dukar. I engineer in Ministry Environment in Branch Sabha. طبعا أنا خريج جامعة السبع قسم علوم البيئة. اشتغلت في وزارة البيئة من كانت الهيئة العامة للبيئة في 2008. بما أن تخصصي بيئة كنت مهتم بالأمور البيئية والقضايا البيئية، وحاليا نشتغل في قسم التفتيش البيئي. فاشتغلت منذ 2008 في المجالات البيئية من ناحية التفتيش على المصانع أو المواقع اللي تلوث في البيئة، اللي هي علاقة بتلوث البيئة.
Perfect. This is perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. So it's important to know that someone is here present from the inspection authorities. So thank you very much.
So now we move to Muna Ibrahim.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning, everyone. I'm Muna Ibrahim, lecturer at Libyan Authority for Scientific Research, Tripoli, Libya, to enjoy with this workshop because I'm interested in degradation petroleum hydrocarbon. Actually, especially this topic when I did my PhD. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, please, the last person, Nermin Gritli.
My name is Nermin Gritli. I am a recent master's graduate in environmental engineering. I am doing research. I'm writing an article on climatic evolution in Libya, and I'm very interested in the POPs contamination. I actually briefly studied it during my university years. And I would love to dive more deeply into this topic. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Okay, you're welcome. Concerning both your studies on climate and climate change, we do address in the guidelines and in my lectures also the, let's say, risks to contaminated sites. Now, I would like to thank the attendants, the trainees, or the participants for their contribution. This gives me an idea of the audience, and I can focus a bit more on what I hear about the field of interest. So if you should see a short introduction of myself, my name is Boudewijn Fokke. I'm a graduate of an agriculture college in the Netherlands, and I've worked around 40 years now. I'm retired, but as an independent, I have a lot of experience in Egypt on contaminated site management, in Morocco, but unfortunately never in Libya. Okay, you should see now the next slide, which is a slide on the objectives of the workshop. The objective is to introduce the phased approach, the stepwise approach of the sustainable management of POP-contaminated sites. The second objective is to introduce the BAT and BEP guidance on the Stockholm Convention. And BAT stands for Best Available Technique and BEP stands for Best Environmental Practice. The other objective is to present the phases of the stepwise approach. Phase 1, the preliminary site investigation. Phase 2, the detailed site investigation of the sustainable management of contaminated sites and the role of the conceptual site model. Then phase 3 and phase 5. Phase 3 is the remediation assessment, how to design a remediation campaign, and phase 4 is the remediation itself. And then last but not least, it's phase 5, which is the site monitoring and aftercare. I would like to tell you that if you do site remediation, often you cannot remediate all contaminants and that you have remaining risks on a site. And these remaining risks should be monitored and taken care of to sustain the results of your investment in the remediation itself. But I will give you more details later on. And then last but not least, one of the objectives is also to present the conditions to get started with the management of contaminated sites. And the issues I discuss is legislation, policy, inventory development, and financial remediation. I will try to give you some examples of financial instruments to finance the contaminated site management. Okay, the workshop program. Today is the first day. After the opening, I will go to presentation number 1, and this is the introduction to the sustainable management of contaminated sites, covering model 1 and 2 of the guidelines. The second issue I will discuss today is the introduction to the conceptual site model, and the third presentation the third subject is model 3. Then in the next day, I will discuss model 4, 5, and 6, and model 3 on the instruments of the equipment to survey. And then last day is on stakeholder engagement, the remediation, and the monitoring and aftercare, and then a long presentation on the personal protective equipment and respiratory protective equipment. And the very last presentation is on legislation, policy, and inventory development and financing remediation campaigns. And then wrap up and closure. The time we start tomorrow is at 10 and we try to finish around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Rules of the workshop. If you have any questions, please ask directly. And Jordi will let me know if the hand is raised or if there is a question in the chat box. And if I'm not clear, please ask again. For me, it's important that I know that you are following it and that you are understanding what I'm saying. And this also gives me the opportunity to say that I'm very sorry that I cannot be in person, because if you're in person, the interaction is better than through this website. But anyhow, we have to deal with it. The workshop will use the guidance of the sustainable management of contaminated site of the Stockholm Convention, and this is the final draft version published in February 25 this year. The draft version has been finalized, taking into account the comments and the submissions of relevant information from parties and observers. So there has been a long time taken for all the parties and observers to give comments, and this finally resulted in the draft version, which is available on the website of the Stockholm Convention. At the bottom of this slide, you will see the link to the guidance. And the parties and observers of the Conference of Parties on the Stockholm Convention that was last April and May were to encourage and welcome the guidance and recommended to use it when developing, updating, implementing the strategies for identifying site contaminated by POPs and undertaking environmental site management of contaminated sites in order to minimize and prevent releases of POPs from these contaminated sites. So that was, let's say, it was endorsed by the parties and observers to use this. But this guidance is especially written for people in countries where there's not yet a well-developed policy and strategy for contaminated site management. This guidance is not written, for instance, for the Dutch people who have long-lasting experience in contaminated site management. But we try to be complete and have all the aspects also of the new POPs inside these guidance. Guidance has 10 models, and the approach is stepwise. And the key instrument of the sustainable management is the conceptual side model. I will come to that later. But let me just go to the next slide, which gives you the table of content of the guidance. The first is an executive summary, an introduction, and then we go to model 1, which gives background on POP's contaminated sites. Model 2 elaborates on the principles and approaches of contaminated site management and remediation. Model 3 is the investigation. It deals with the preliminary site investigation and the detailed site investigation, and all to develop a conceptual site model. Model 4 is specially devoted to environmental risk assessment. Here we deal with the different tiers of risk assessment, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So level 1, level 2, and level 3 of risk assessment. An environmental risk assessment will say risk for human health, risk for environment, and risk for migration. Number 5 is a model on the remediation technologies and techniques. And number 6 gives a selection tool for remediation techniques. And this is part of phase 3, the remediation assessment. Number 7 deals with stakeholder engagement and public and worker safety and health. It's very important in the remediation campaign to involve the stakeholders to have a successful project. Number 8 is on the remediation itself and the monitoring and aftercare. And then number 9 is getting started. Here we deal again with the legislation, policy, inventory development, and financing. The last model gives a case study from, it's a site in Vietnam, which is being surveyed and remediated following this systematic approach, this phased approach. Said that we have 5 phases, and the phases are phase 1, the preliminary site investigation, which gives at the end an initial conceptual site model and the first level of risk assessment. Then the second phase is the detailed site investigation, and the detailed site investigation starts with a gap analysis of the initial conceptual site model, which gives you then the information to make a site sampling analysis plan for a detailed site investigation. And the deliverables of the phase 2 are a detailed conceptual site model, the complete understanding of a site, and the results of risk assessment on the next levels. That can be level 2 or level 3. The next phase is the site remediation and the site remediation assessment. And here you select remediation techniques for each component. You conceptual design remediation options, describing feasible remediation measures for all site components, selection of the best remedial option based on risk reduction, environmental merit, and cost. Because also in this phase you gain site information, so you have to improve your conceptual site model. And then in this last activity of phase number 3 is the preliminary design of the best remedial the selected option, which is the best option. And then we enter into the remediation management. Here you detail design site remediation, and site remediation eliminate the acute risk and direct risks and remediate and or contain the remaining risks. And because you change the situation on site, you have to update your conceptual site model again. And then the last phase is the site monitoring and aftercare. You do the monitoring, you collect data, and with the data, you update your conceptual site model, and so on and so on. Now, this is a picture illustrating that the deliverables of phase 1 are the input of phase 2, and the deliverables of phase 2 are the input of phase 3, and the same counts for phase 3, 4, and 5. So that is the stepwise approach, and I will go into a bit more detail on the different steps in the lectures of the coming 3 days. But it's important to mention that for each phase, you have to appoint the responsible party, the accountable party, and the parties to be informed. And the project plan made should be project specific, realistic in cost and time, and flexible. And flexible means that you need to have enough time and contingency in cost, because you will come across unexpected things. Okay, this was my first presentation. I will switch now to the next one, and that takes a bit more time.